Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
My friends, this is great. I have been laughing all morning long. I've been laughing starting with last night. Can we agree that Donald Trump is probably enjoying this more than anybody wants to admit or that anybody knows? So he fires Comey yesterday. Who's he meet with today? He's meeting with the Russian foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov. I mean, what an epic troll this is. The Democrat Party is going bananas, completely, totally unhinged, on the road to literal insanity. Do you realize, let me tell you what's happened here. The Democrat Party has once again thrown Hillary Clinton overboard. Hillary Clinton is the most cheated on woman in America by people in her own party, and it's happened again. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, stand by. I'm going to explain all of this. But they have just chosen sides, and once again, Hillary gets thrown under the bus. And not only that, the Democrats are rolling that bus backwards and forwards. She's finished. She's over with. The Democrat Party and the media have made it clear that she is fodder. She is irrelevant here. It is amazing. 2 days ago, they were all talking about how Comey needs to be fired because of how mistreating he was to Hillary, and the Hillary people were running around claiming that Comey is a bad guy. And now Comey gets fired, and all of a sudden, they do a 180. You know, my friends, I've often spoken of the connection Donald Trump has with his audience, with his supporters. I understand it because I just understand it. The Democrats do not have such a connection. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. Perhaps one of the funniest, one of the most indicative. This is one of the top 5 most illustrative, indicative things in this entire past 18 hours or whatever it is. Last night on CBS, Stephen Colbert had a reunion of all those clowns from Comedy Central. It was hyped. It was celebrated. It was promoted. There were gobs and gobs of people tuning in to relive some of the great old days when the Democrats were running comedy and therefore running the country. So they have a large audience, and that audience is just waiting to be entertained, to express all of the pent-up frustration they've got because their heroes are back on TV. So it's time for the program to start, and Colbert goes out there, and he opens the program in his monologue by announcing huge story that broke just minutes ago. They taped this show like 5 or 6 o'clock. They taped this show shortly after the firing of James Comey took place. By the way, which was totally justified. There is no constitutional crisis. There is no coup other than the one being mounted against Trump. Trump cannot conduct a coup. He already has power. Trump cannot do a coup. He already is president. If there is a coup going on, which we've discussed countless times, a silent coup against Trump. So anyway, Colbert goes out there. He says, huge story that broke just moments ago, less than 10 minutes ago. FBI Director James Comey has just been fired by Donald Trump, and his audience cheered. His audience practically gave it a standing O, and Colbert didn't know what to do. The audience, which is indicative of liberals and leftists all over the country, they thought it was the greatest thing they could have heard because that's what they've been conditioned to do. Hate Comey. They have been told that Comey stole the election from them by dumping all over Hillary. They've been told that Comey showed all kinds of favoritism to Trump, so they have been conditioned to literally hate Comey. The Hillary camp has played a role in that. The drive-by media has led that charge. The Democrat Party got their digs in. So Colbert goes out there, and he's fully expecting for his audience to boo and hiss. And what did they do? They cheered it. They gave it a standing ovation because that's what they've been programmed to do. They've been told to hate Comey. Colbert was totally taken aback. And he said something, wow, huge Donald Trump fans here. No, there weren't any Donald Trump fans in that audience last night, knowing full well it was a Comedy Central reunion. There weren't any Trump fans in there. Those were liberal Democrats, robots, mind-numbed. They just can't keep up with whether they're supposed to hate Comey or not at this particular point in time. They don't know who they're supposed to hate. Can you imagine how confused they are? Their initial gut reaction was to stand up and cheer it, and Colbert was embarrassed. Here's how it sounded last night's CBS Late Show.
Huge story that broke just minutes ago, like less than 10 minutes ago. FBI Director James Comey has just been fired by Donald Trump.
Yeah, right
on. Wow. Huge Donald Trump fans here tonight.
The audience was totally taken aback. They were insulted. They were called Trump fans. They're not Trump fans. They're liberal Democrats. They can't keep up with whether they're supposed to hate Comey. They don't know who they're supposed to hate. And Colbert had no idea. Colbert just assumed that everybody in his audience was sophisticated and knowledgeable enough to understand that Comey being fired by Trump, so Trump is the arch enemy. Trump at every turn must be booed, hissed, and so forth. But Trump did a good thing. Trump fired Comey, they thought. I don't know how many people think this is a big deal. I happen to, because I think it indicates it's a teachable moment for Republicans. It's a teachable moment for conservatives in terms of understanding, if there's any doubt, what we're up against. And if there is, these people that are on the left are not independent thinkers. They have not arrived at what they believe based on their own thinking, their own calculations. They are entirely programmed. They absorb the media they absorb for instructions, behavioral instructions, and all the rest. And that is just one little microcosm. Another thing that happened, WikiLeaks has offered Comey a job. Is this not great? Surprising job offer rolled in for Comey on Tuesday afternoon, mere hours after Trump fired him. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange said he would be happy to consider Comey for a position at WikiLeaks in their massive Washington office, where the now unemployed FBI chief might continue his mission to properly investigate the U.S. government. That's not what he's doing. You know what another big moment in this whole episode is that nobody's talking about? I wouldn't go so far as to say it's the real story, but again, this is in the top 5. In Trump's letter to Comey, Trump mentions that Comey told him 3 times he was not under investigation. Now, the way this is being handled by the drive-bys is, well, man, Trump really blew it on this. Trump really, he shouldn't have put that in. He just can't help himself. He had to let everybody know that he's innocent, let everybody know, and he had to put Comey on this. They're missing the entire point. You have to know Donald Trump. Yeah, it may look awkward. Yeah, it may look unusual. This is Donald Trump. Can I translate this for you? This is Donald Trump saying, despite the fact the guy ain't after me, I'm letting him go anyway. That's all this means. It is not Trump saying, I'm innocent, I didn't do anything, you can't prove it. He's not doing a Bart Simpson. He's simply saying, hey, despite the fact the guy told me 3 times, they're not looking at me, I haven't done anything. Despite the fact that he's helping me out here, I still have to get rid of him. But there's still the detail of the detail of the news. Comey has told Trump 3 times he's not under investigation. Why hasn't Comey announced that? Comey's announced everything else about this case. Comey's violated every rule there is in conducting investigations, especially investigations that are not going to end up with anybody being charged. At July 5th press conference, and we've mentioned this I don't know how many times, that July 5th press conference was totally uncalled for, and it ended up, you can prove that by looking at the various ideological interests in the country. The left loved certain aspects of it and hated certain aspects of it, and members on the right loved certain aspects. Nobody should have, because it was a total bastardization of the criminal justice system and procedures. What he did just isn't done. But that's for later. 3 times. James, you think Trump's lying about this? You think Trump would put this in this resignation letter if this isn't true? You know what's going to happen now? The drive-bys are going to try to get hold of Comey. He was supposed to address a Senate committee tomorrow. That's been canceled. He's still going to appear before it, I'm confident. But they're going to try to get hold of Comey. Is this true? Is this true? Did you tell Trump 3 times that he's not under investigation? And now Comey's going to be on the spot. What if Comey says, no, he's making it up? You imagine the firestorm there. What if Comey says, yeah, I've told him 3 times. You mean there's nothing? There isn't anything there. But you know something else amazing about this? These people really believe it, folks. This has gone beyond mere political posturing. These people on the left, led by the media and the Democrat Party and all of the apparatus, I'm telling you, are sick. I have never seen, I was thinking about it last night. I'm 66 years old. I have been following politics, honestly, since I was 10. I'm not kidding. I have seen unhinged behavior. I've seen the wild allegations that Democrats make and repeat. I have never seen this degree of collective insanity. I have never seen this degree of so many people literally being out of touch, devoid reality, and unhinged. I've never seen this degree of hate. I understand it because of what's happened. Trump has totally embarrassed every one of these people inside the Washington Beltway. And he's taunting them, meeting with the Russian ambassador today after the Democrats are convinced the Russians stole the election. They have repeated it so many times, they actually believe it now. The only way this rage can exist is if they really believe this election was stolen, and if they really believe the Russians colluded with Trump. 9 months and not a shred of evidence. And most recently, this was acknowledged by Clapper and Sally Yates. It's been acknowledged by Comey himself in recent congressional testimony. It's been acknowledged by Dianne Feinstein. There isn't any. It was acknowledged by Maxine Waters yesterday. There isn't any. And yet they believe it. That's all they've got. They cannot, will not blame themselves. So they literally believe that the Russians somehow colluded with Trump, even though there's no evidence for it. They really believe Trump fired Comey because he might have been getting close, under the asinine belief that firing Comey is going to stop the investigation. How many investigations are there? The House has one. The Senate has one. The FBI's got their own. You know who's running the FBI today? McCabe, a Democrat. His wife ran for the Senate or ran for governor of Virginia, very close to the punk Terry McAuliffe. The guy is a hardened Democrat. He's now running the FBI. He's in charge of the investigation to get Trump. Nothing comes to a screeching halt here just because Comey's been let go. But the hysteria and the panic and the outrage is rooted in raw hate. The Democrats, wherever you find them, in the media, think tanks, don't care where you find them, they're being consumed by it, folks. They're literally being eaten alive with an irrational, raw hatred, literally absorbing them. Nothing good for them can come of this kind of hate and resulting derangement. Nothing good. This is not how you put together winning movements. This is not how you build or grow anything. This kind of raw, unfettered hate that they now have lost total control over. And Trump is just taunting them. Trump is just feeding it. He's doing everything he can to drive them even crazier. And they're falling for it each and every occasion. Now, nobody's focusing on the detail that Comey has told Trump 3 times there's nothing there. 3 times. Comey has told Trump, I'm not investigating you. They're looking past that. They're not even seeing that. All they're seeing is that Trump put it in the letter, and that must mean that Trump's got something to hide, or he's trying to put Comey on the spot, or there's some kind of power play going on. They're incapable of rationality. They are incapable of reason. They are incapable of just taking a moment, absorb things. They are into knee-jerk reactions based on whatever triggers set them off, and they have stopped thinking. They have stopped pondering. They have stopped considering, and they're just reacting like spoiled brat little kids. How long is it going to be? How long is it going to be, ladies and gentlemen, before we start hearing how many millions of Americans are going to die because James Comey was fired? How long is it going to be before we start hearing about Americans suffering post-traumatic Comey firing syndrome and needing insurance coverage for this mental illness brought on by the Trump presidency? Should we cancel final exams at universities? Will the students be traumatized to the point that they cannot take their final exam? Should all tests be canceled? Should school be canceled for the year and everybody just finish on spring break? Is that the only way the left is going to be able to deal with this? How many millions of Americans are going to die now because Trump fired Comey? Post-traumatic Comey firing syndrome. Will it be covered by insurance companies as a pre-existing condition going forward? Take every inane, dumb, stupid political claim they make and attach it to this story. You know how they're so off track? This Russia investigation, let me just tell you before we go to the break, it's not even a criminal investigation. They don't even know this. Whatever the FBI is doing, looking into whether or not the Russians tampered with or hacked the election or colluded with Trump, it's not a criminal investigation. It's a counterintelligence investigation. It's not even pursuing Trump on the basis of criminality here. They're not pursuing Trump. According to Comey, he's been cleared 3 times. Nobody's talking about this. Look, there's all the other detail to get in here. Rod Rosenstein, who actually wrote the memo to Sessions detailing the reasons why Comey should be fired. They're all right on the money. They're all spot on. I'm telling you, folks, Trump is making fools of these people. He's doing what he said he was going to do, draining the swamp, clearing it out, and they just cannot deal with this. And I'm telling you, I have had more fun waiting for this program to begin today. Wait till you hear. I mean, folks, they have dumped on Hillary Clinton yet again, and nobody has figured this out yet. I'll explain. You people that voted for Donald Trump, you're just every day seeing why you did it. I have a message for the Republicans. The last thing you should do is find anything in common with the Democrats on this. The last thing you should do is feel sorry, simpatico. Do not fall for the temptation to join the Democrats in their rants against Trump on this. Here's the deal, folks. There is no collusion. The Russians did not hack, did not tamper, did not impact the outcome of our election. It's been established for over 9 months, if not longer. It's not possible. There is not a single person anywhere in law enforcement, in Congress. There's nobody officially anywhere who can show you a syllable of evidence that whatever the Russians did had anything to do with the outcome of the election. There is nothing. And yet, it's the only thing the Democrats have. They dare not let go of it. It's the only explanation they have for why Hillary Clinton lost the election. And in that is a tremendous opportunity for the Republicans. Do you realize what a nothing burger the Democrat Party is? Do you realize the Democrat Party literally has nothing virtuous, positive, uplifting to run on? In all of this, the Democrat Party dares not ask people, hey, take a look at us. We got better ideas. Hey, take a look at us. We can fix this. None of that. The only thing they've got is this insane, invisible, non-existent, so-called connection between the Russians and our election. They have no ideas. They have no optimism. They have no leaders. They have no vision. They are ripe for being smoked for generations. This is the time to move in politically and wipe them out. Yeah, welcome back. You're tuned to the most listened to radio talk show in America, hosted by me, Rush Limbaugh, your beloved, all-knowing, all-caring, all-seeing, all-sensing, all-feeling, all-everything Maha-Rushi. Telephone number if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. Check the email during the break. Don't misunderstand here, folks. I'm not saying the Democrats don't pose a threat. Look, two things here. The Democrats are in deep trouble electorally. The Democrats are not running the left. The media is. And the media is clearly not inconsequential. Don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that what's happening here is obvious to everyone. I'm saying the Republican Party has a golden opportunity here to continue to hammer the nail into the coffin of the Democrat Party. The media stands in the way, obviously. But I'm just telling you, this kind of irrational hate, this all-consuming hate and derangement, delusion, it isn't healthy. The majority of American people do not want their politics day to day to be governed by this stuff. If they did, we wouldn't be living with circumstances as we are now. We've got a big road to hoe. I don't want to be misunderstanding, but this instance, this episode that's happened here, Comey being fired, Trump doing it, it is not anything the Democrats or the media are trying to say that it is. It's justified. It was, people complain about the timing. It was long overdue. There's no coup here. There's no constitutional crisis whatsoever. None of these allegations the Democrats are making about this or the media have any substance whatsoever. Not saying that they can't make people believe this. I know better than everybody that they can. I just don't want the Republicans to get sucked into this and start talking and acting like the Democrats are. And the reason they would do it is why they always do it, a misunderstanding of the public mood. A misunderstanding of thinking that the Democrats or the media represent the majority of thinking in this country. And I'm here to tell you they don't. It might be close, but they don't. That's part of the trick every day, is to make the media, to make it look like everything they're reporting and saying about it and believe represents the vast majority of thinking. And anything that's not that is extremist, filled with hate, or is racist or nativist or whatever. And the Republicans have a golden opportunity here if they just don't fall for this. But, you know, the Republicans are part of the establishment, too. Some Republicans are. And the enmity that people hold for Trump inside Washington is only ratcheting up. And, in fact, even in that regard, Trump is, you have to say, fearless. They had to know what was going to happen here. You know what you ought to do? I did this. You need to go read some of the reaction to this within the first 5 minutes of it. Within the first 5 minutes, go read some conservative blogs. Go read some conservative websites. You know what you'll find? You'll find unanimity in support of Trump. Well, not unanimity, but I mean, it's overwhelming. The case they make, Trump was totally qualified. This was long overdue. Comey had long ago ceased behaving appropriately for an FBI director. Immediate analysis was how Trump was justified, quoting Rosenstein over at the Department of Justice, the number 2 there behind Jeff Sessions. His memo is explicitly perfect and clear in detailing why this happened. The initial analysis of this was that Trump was home free, had concrete to stand on, not just firm ground. 10 minutes or 15 minutes after the media gets hold of it and totally changes all the narratives is when people begin reacting to that and not the actual news. And what I'm saying, don't react to the media's coverage of this. React to the actual event. And the actual event, the firing of Comey, is entirely, completely justified. A case can be made for it, as many Democrats have been. There's hypocrisy galore out there. Now, I know hypocrisy never sticks to the Democrats. I've got a page here of tweets and complaints by Democrats. Nancy Pelosi says Comey may not be in the right job. All this is within the past 3 months. Harry Reid, Comey should resign. CNN's top legal analyst, Paul Callan, time for FBI Chief Comey to resign. Since the FBI found that Hillary Clinton broke the law, recommend charges or resign. That's another one. Comey should go. Wall Street Journal, Comey should resign. Business Insider, Comey acted in an outrageous way during the campaign. Bernie Sanders suggests FBI director should resign. Think Progress. This is the Democrat. Hillary Clinton. Think Progress is there. That's where Podesta worked. The case for firing Comey. Podesta's out there saying that the American people are getting nauseous at the sound of Comey's voice. They've been mad at Comey ever since July 5th. Now all of a sudden Trump fires it. So I'm saying react to the event, folks. And when you react to the event, you have nothing to defend. You have nothing to feel guilty about. You have nothing to defend Trump over. It's entirely justified. It's entirely legitimate. It's not a coup. It's not the Saturday Night Massacre. It's not Nixonian. It's none of that. It isn't even close to that. Nixon never fired an FBI director. The only guy that fired an FBI director is who? Anybody know in there? That'd be William Jefferson Clinton. And the FBI director he fired was named Bill Sessions. And that was such a fiasco, we produced a parody and satire bit about it. Clinton was being urged by the media. Clinton was, and everybody says, well, that didn't get much news. Sessions should have been fired. No, it occupied the media for 2 weeks. It was such a big deal that we did a parody about it with Clinton dreaming, must fire Bill Sessions, must fire Bill Sessions, must fire Bill Sessions. He's dreaming about it because the media was hammering. You got to get rid of Bill. I don't even remember what for. But the media was demanding that Sessions go, and Clinton finally did it. And there was no talk of a coup, and there was no talk of a constitutional crisis, and there was no talk of anything negative about Clinton. Nixon got rid of Archibald Cox. Archibald Cox was special prosecutor, independent counsel looking into Watergate. He ordered Cox to quit. Cox said, screw you, I'm quitting. Oh, Cox said, no, I'm not quitting. Screw you. So Nixon called somebody, said, fire Cox. The guy Nixon called said, refused to fire Cox. Screw you. So Nixon fired that guy, the Solicitor General, a guy that represents the United States Supreme Court. Robert Bork replaced the fired Solicitor General and went over and fired Cox. That happened on a Saturday. In the early 70s, I was in Pittsburgh. I remember this because the program director of the station's work called me to come in because we might not have a show to do Monday. They thought the country was going to fall apart because of this. I'm not kidding you. I'm 22 years old. I said, what? Yeah, man, Saturday Night Massacre. Nixon's going nuts. You got to get in here. We need everybody at the station in case they close the city up. Are you kidding me? No. Get in here. So I had to go in there Saturday night because of the Saturday Night Massacre. Bork got rid of Cox, and that was it. And it didn't save Nixon. It didn't stop. Nixon wasn't doing a coup. Nixon was president. Trump's not doing a coup. He is president. Leaders don't mount coups. Leaders have coups mounted against them, which is what's happening here. Now, I mentioned that the Democrats have thrown Hillary overboard and under the bus, and they're running the bus backwards and forwards to make sure Hillary doesn't get back up again. She is the most cheated on woman in America, at least by Democrats. What do you mean, Rush? How did they throw Hillary overboard? That's right. I'll explain. Coming right up, right after this. Don't go away. Could a new FBI director reopen the Hillary investigation? I assume so. There's some Democrats paranoid that that's why Trump did this. Yeah, he's tired. Comey wasn't going after Hillary, so he got rid of Comey, put somebody in there to go after him. Comey already listed her crimes. Comey's already done that. That's what he did on July 5th. He listed everything she could be charged with. What did he say? We couldn't find any intent. By the way, from the moment he said that, that's not what the statute says. The statute says nothing about intent. There are all kinds of people in jail for trafficking in classified data. They didn't know they were doing it. It was Comey writing his own law, interpreting his own law. He was hell-bent not to charge her. He shouldn't have done that press conference anyway. He claimed he did it because Loretta got on a plane with Clinton, or Clinton got on her plane and she let it happen. It's not his job to take over the Department of Justice and act like a deputy attorney general. And then to go out there and list her crimes and then say, but no reasonable prosecutor would charge. Well, we'll find out. But what happened here? Comey got fired. Why did Comey get fired? According to the left, according to the media, according to the Democrat Party, why are they mad that Trump fired Comey? They are mad because Comey was investigating Trump and the Russian collection. And that's why Trump won. And Comey was looking into that, and Comey was going to produce the goods, and Comey was going to get Trump, and we all know it. And Trump knew Comey was going to get him. And so Trump said to Comey, you're out of here. You're fired. I'm not going to let you get me. Wait a minute. Are you saying that Trump didn't fire Comey because of his transgressions against Hillary? That July 5th press conference, if you want to look at it straight up and down, that was outrageous what he did to Hillary Clinton. List her crimes. This is never done. A press conference where you list the crimes of a perp, but you're not charging, but you still list the crime, it's never done. And that's why the Democrats initially were angry at Comey and hated Comey, and it's why the Colbert audience cheered when they heard Comey got fired, because they have been conditioned to believe that Comey stole the election, not the Russians. It was Comey that stole it. July 5th press conference, October 28th letter to Congress, Comey stole the election from Hillary. That's why they're cheering. It was right that Comey got fired. The Democrats have been dumping on Comey for 9 months since that happened. Comey's evil. Comey's a rotten guy. Comey stole the election. Well, except for the Russian. But Comey did it. Comey did it. So Trump fires Comey. Where's the gratitude? You know, Donald Trump saved Barack Obama's honor by bombing Syria. Obama had all those red lines telling Assad, you cross the lines, you're coming after you. Assad crossed the lines. Obama did nothing. Here is Donald Trump. If you ask me, the media should be thanking Trump. The Democrats should be thanking Trump because Trump finally squared it for Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump protected the honor of Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was mistreated by Comey. The Democrats believe it. And Trump got rid of the guy who was mistreating Hillary. But that's not what they're saying. They don't care. They don't care anymore what happened to Hillary. They don't care what Comey did to Hillary. That's not even a factor in this. The Democrats are saying essentially, we don't care about Comey costing Hillary the election. What we care about is the Russian collusion conspiracy theory. And for that reason, Comey can't be fired, no matter what Hillary wants, no matter what Podesta wants. We can't get rid of Comey, even though we've told all of our supporters to hate Comey because he stole the election for Hillary, but we'd rather focus on the Russians stealing the election. So Hillary, sorry maybe, but you got no weight with us anymore. They've thrown her overboard. Her cause. Comey's mistreatment of her. Not a factor. If I'm in the Clinton campaign, if I'm Hillary Clinton, I'm feeling abandoned, cheated on yet again. Other lines of attack are preferred over a line of attack that would be oriented toward defending me. Hillary's charge that Comey interfered with the election just got kicked to the curb. Comey doing the nasty to deny Hillary with that July 5th presser and the October 28th letter just got kicked to the curb. Democrats said they're fine with that. Got no problem with that. That's not why they're mad that Comey got fired. They're mad that Comey got fired because they wanted Comey to get the goods on Trump. As far as the Democrats are concerned, Hillary's yesterday's news. Hillary lost the election, doesn't matter how now, because their focus is on the Russian connection. They just dumped on Hillary again. They don't care about Hillary's charge that Comey cost her the election. Democrats want Comey around because of a phony collusion narrative between Trump and the Russians. And looked at another way, you could say that Donald Trump was actually protecting the honor of Hillary Clinton by getting rid of the guy that mistreated her. Say that. Run into a guy in the media and say that to him, and what, you better run for the hills. They'll be so mad at you. Look at what's happened here. One woman and her illegal mail setup, her illegal fundraising apparatus, one woman, Hillary Rodham Clinton, the most cheated on Democrat woman in America, sets up an illegal email server and traffics in classified data. She accepts donations from questionable foreign entities in the Family Crime Foundation. If Hillary Clinton hadn't sought the presidency, we wouldn't be here. If Hillary Clinton hadn't set up the email server, we wouldn't be here. If she hadn't been running around in funny money with the foundation, we wouldn't be here. But she did. One entitled, expectant, thinks of herself as a queen woman, and her illegal email setup and her illegal fundraising apparatus, combined with a Washington establishment effort to cover it all up and keep her out of trouble, is what has gotten us to this point. If Hillary Clinton had simply faced justice like anybody else, we wouldn't be here. But the Washington establishment and the Democrat Party had to do everything it could to keep her from being charged, to keep her from being found guilty. And that is why we are here, not Donald Trump. Fastest 3 hours in media. First hour is over. It's in the can on the way over to Limbaugh Broadcast Museum, a virtual museum. If you haven't seen it, you should visit rushlimbaugh.com. It's a very cool thing. We're going to get to your phone calls as soon as we can in the next hour. A lot of people lined up want to weigh in on this. I, of course, have many, many more observations, most of which you will not hear anywhere else. Yes, sir, Bob. Hi, welcome back, my friends. It's great to have you here. Rush Limbaugh, the EIB Network, Limbaugh Institute, Advanced Anti-Leftist Studies. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. Right there it is at Fox. Growing questions over President's assertion that Comey told him 3 times he wasn't being investigated. You knew that was going to happen. So why would Trump put that in the letter? Why would Trump assert that? Some people think Trump just can't help himself. He's a child, you know. Trump had to put in that he's innocent. He's not guilty. He didn't do anything. That's not what Trump was doing. You have to know Donald Trump. It's no crime knowing Donald. And I don't mean know him. Know how he thinks, how he speaks. I've said it once. I've said it many times. There's nobody in American media that can better explain Donald Trump, the way he speaks, how he speaks, and the connection he has with his voters than your host, me, Il Rushbo. I'm going to tell you, when Trump puts in this letter, it may not have been wise to do it. I'm not even commenting on that. But I think you always have to remember he's not a politician and doesn't care to be. And so, he's not trying to go in there and master the system. He's in there to be who he is, and if it blows up the system, fine. Drain the swamp, however you want to characterize it. What Trump was saying, and look, no question he's using that assertion as an opportunity to tell people, because Comey's not telling anybody. I mean, why would Trump put that in there if it's not true? Can anybody think why somebody... Trump has to know that statement's going to become, at some point, when these clowns cool off, it's going to become a focal point. It's going to become a target. Why would Trump lie about Comey having told him 3 times he's not being investigated if he is being investigated? What upside is there for Trump for there to be a discovery that Comey had not cleared him? Now, given fake news, anybody can make anything up these days and call it news, which happens way too often in the drive-by media. What Trump was saying was even though I am not being pursued, I'm still getting rid of the guy. What Trump wanted people to believe, what he was trying to convey was that he's not the kind of guy who would leave things alone and not do anything. As long as he's not in trouble, fine and dandy, let Comey do what he wants to do. He's not that kind of guy. What he was saying is, even though Comey's told me that I didn't do anything, he hasn't found anything, I still had to get rid of the guy because I find what he's doing outrageous. He was actually trying to credit himself for non-prejudicial thinking. But the way it reads to critics is that Trump's lost in his narcissism and his ego and just had to tell people, he just couldn't wait for the investigation. He had to tell people that Comey told him he's not being investigated. Even though you told me 3 times. So now they're looking at that, and they're going to find a source somewhere. An anonymous source will say, I don't think that's what Comey was telling us in the office. You know damn well you can make book on that. You can make book. There's going to be at least an anonymous source, maybe 2, who will say, no, the director didn't say that to President Trump. Just get ready for it because you know it's coming. Now, talking about Comey, I'm going to go back to all the archives here and dig up the sound and play it for you. But I want to remind you of some of the things that Comey did, and at the time, my reaction to them. And I thought, and including recently, that last appearance before, I guess it was a Senate committee, some things he did in that just boggled my mind. But I'm going to go back to July 5th. Comey calls a press conference and says, because it's so crucial, the American people are so tuned in, it's just with a presidential election, he's got to get the news out. Loretta Lynch had let Clinton come on her plane, and so Comey decided that she had lost credibility and claimed that Loretta told him to take over, which is dubious. He lists her violations of crime. And it was detailed, and it took a while for him to go through it. And while that was happening, there were a lot of, my God, he's actually going to charge her. And then he didn't. Then he said, despite all this, we couldn't find any intent, no reasonable prosecutor to bring charges. Well, intent is not part of the statute. Made the point that afternoon. That whole thing was so odd. Now, people on the right loved it because it served a purpose for them. It got an official indictment, if you will, an unofficial indictment, a list of her criminal behavior. I remember Comey supporters at the time said, he's really a smart guy. He can't bring charges because the DOJ is never going to pursue Hillary because she's a big Democrat and it's the Obama administration. So Comey's doing what he can to nail a woman. And all he can do is go out there and tell the public her crimes and let them affect me, the jury, and the verdict will be rendered on Election Day. And that's how many on the right credited Comey for what he was doing. I thought, I've never seen an FBI director behave this way. I've never, and I've been involved in these things, and I have never seen the department head of an investigative unit call a press conference to list the crimes somebody's not going to be charged with. I've never seen that. And I thought, this is odd, it's peculiar, and it doesn't make any sense. And it's improper. This is why you shut up. This is why you don't. This is why investigators don't say anything. Particularly if there are not going to be charges. You do not smear people when you're not going to charge them. And Hillary was smeared. There's no two ways about it. The Democrats were praising Comey out the wazoo. He was wise. He was smart. He realized that she had no intention of behaving in criminal fashion, and she didn't. And he was very mature, and he came to the only conclusion he could have come to. He exonerated her and closed the investigation. Democrats loved Comey. Man, that was awesome. That took one of those giant roadblocks out of the way. It was smooth sailing after that. And it was strange, and it was improper, and it is cited in the memo from Rosenstein to Jeff Sessions as being one of the reasons why what Comey did is improper and way beyond the bounds. I think Comey was out of control. I think Comey loved being in the center of things. I think Comey loved being the focus of attention. I think Comey, contrary to being nauseous that he might have impacted elections, loved it. Most people do, folks. Most people love basking in the glow of favorable media. Most people just absolutely adore fame. Until they get it. But they do. And I think Comey just got caught up in this and became in his mind far more and far bigger than just the director of the FBI. The director of the FBI is an employee of the Justice Department and is a subordinate to the Attorney General and the Department of Justice. And here he had assumed control over it. That was another misstep. Then you go to the October 28th letter, when he found that there'd been some emails ending up on Carlos Danger's computer from his wife, Huma Weiner. And so he told Congress, we got to look into this. We're reopening the investigation. But we don't know where it's going. Why tell anybody you're reopening the investigation if you don't want to have some impact on the election? This is October 28th. He wouldn't have had to tell anybody because he didn't know if it was going to lead anywhere. So once it compounds the same error, He doesn't know if there is anything to be discovered or learned, doesn't know if there's any criminal behavior activity, and yet sends a letter to Congress telling them we're reopening. The letter goes public, and the Democrats are livid. And now all of a sudden, they go from loving Comey to hating Comey. And then Comey says, guess what? Nothing to see here. That's it. We're all good here. Nothing to see. And the Democrats think the damage has been done. And they hate Comey. So they love Comey in July, hate Comey in October. Hillary loses the election. They blame the Russians and Comey equally. Then they start blaming the Russians more than Comey. Then we got polling data this week that shows the letter that Comey sent on October 28th, according to state polls, probably was not a factor in her losing. And we know the Russians weren't because there wasn't any tampering with the outcome of election. There was no tampering with votes. There was nothing. Hillary lost for the right reason. She's a lousy candidate. She had no campaign. She couldn't tell people why she wanted to be president. Democrats to this day cannot tell people why they should be president. All they can do is say Trump's unfit. But they have nothing that they can ballyhoo about themselves because they don't and they're not. Well, so now we come forward to last week, and Comey's back up testifying. And he made a huge blunder. And I had it in the stack to mention yesterday, and all last night I was regretting that I set it aside and didn't get to it. He made a big, big blunder in his last round of testimony. He said that hundreds and thousands of classified emails ended up from Huma Weiner's computer to her husband, Anthony Weiner. But that's not the case. Huma was not forwarding classified emails to her husband. She was backing up her computer, and her BlackBerry ended up backing up to Weiner's computer as a secondary backup site. There was no purposeful transfer, and it wasn't hundreds and thousands of classified documents and emails. It was like 10 or 12. And all day yesterday and the day before, the FBI supposedly was struggling with how to deal with this. They had to correct the record. Comey had wildly misspoken under oath. And when he got fired yesterday, many people thought that was actually the reason, because it was incompetence on parade. It was erroneous, and there was no effort publicly being made to correct it. And once again, it would have been Trump coming to the defense of Hillary Clinton, because it was, again, Hillary and Huma who ended up being smeared by Comey earlier this week or last week when he testified. So it was another instance where actually the Democrats and Hillary should be thanking Trump. But they can't, of course, because they're in this quest to find the mythological connection between Russia and Trump. Now, last night, you want to really drill down here and find out what really is behind this. Because Pence is up on Capitol Hill today, says nothing to do with the Russian investigation. That's not why he got fired. Let me preface, there were two other things that I heard Comey say in his testimony that I just boggled my mind. And he was asked by some Democrat senator, why do you think the Russians preferred Trump? And he answered it. He answered it in a purely political way, not in any way as an investigator. There's no evidence that the Russians preferred Trump. There's no evidence the Russians helped Trump. There is none. And here's Comey. Well, they really like Trump better because Hillary is this. It was what a consultant, a political consultant would say. Whatever his answer was, it could not have come from an investigation. And the second thing, and this was the big one, and I saw it replayed last night, but not enough attention was focused on it. I think it was Trey Gowdy during a House investigation. Actually, it was doubled on with another Republican senator asked, are you going to investigate the unmasking of Republican officials, and he said no. I don't think so. I know we don't support leaking of classified information, but we don't investigate. I'm not asking you to investigate leaks. I'm asking you to investigate who is unmasking people who ought not be named in these secondary traps of surveillance of foreign actors. For example, Flynn was unmasked. The reason that we know he was talking to the Russian ambassador. The Russian ambassador was being phone tapped, surveilled. Flynn's name should have never been made public, but somebody unmasked, like Susan Rice, and Comey flatly refused to go there. And that's real criminality, folks. That is statutory felonious behavior. These unmaskings are. And Comey, no interest. Nope, not going to go there. No interest in classified leaking and finding out who's been. Can't go there. Too much of that. Last night on Fox, Catherine Herridge, on their 9 o'clock show called The Five, said that Comey was fired because he refused to reveal the Obama administration unmaskers to President Trump. The Obama regime spied on and unmasked the identities and conversations of several Americans in 2016. This we know. That's felonious. There was no pursuit of Obama. Obama's surveilling people. Obama's engaging in a genuine criminal activity, and there's a big ho-hum and a range of silence from the media. The Republicans are asking Comey what he's going to do about it, and he says nothing. So apparently Trump asked for the FBI director to reveal the Obama administration unmaskers, and Comey refused to do it. He stalled turning the information over to the Trump administration. Catherine Herridge of Fox says that was the straw that broke the camel's back when Comey openly refused a request and refused to even conduct an investigation into this unmasking. Let me take a brief timeout. We'll come back and continue after this. Your phone calls are coming up. CNN, The Washington Post with fake news. There's a new story that Comey requested additional money for his investigation just days before he was fired. The Department of Justice has just denied it 100%. There was no request for additional money before he was fired. CNN and The Washington Post get this fake news trail going. That Comey was getting close, man. He needed some more money. He needed some more money to nail Trump. And that's when Trump moved in and said, screw you, buddy. You're not getting the money. You're not getting me. The DOJ says 100% false. The request was made. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington, ran into the Soviet foreign minister today. He's in town talking to Trump. Here's Trump colluding with the Russians, and the day after he fires Comey, he's got a meeting with the Russian foreign Sergei Lavrov. I mean, this is trolling extraordinaire. And Andrea Mitchell, she is loaded for bear. After Secretary of State Tillerson welcomed Lavrov to the U.S. and about to leave, Andrea Mitchell found Lavrov and asked him a question.
Does the Comey firing cast a shadow over your talks, gentlemen?
Was he fired?
Yes.
You're kidding. You're kidding.
What about the Russian investigation?
Did you hear that? Andrea Mitchell, NBC News. Does the Comey firing cast a shadow on your talks, gentlemen? And the Russian foreign minister said, was he fired? Mitchell said, yes. Lavrov, you're kidding. You're kidding. He was fired? Mitchell said, what about the Russian investigation? What investigation? The trolling here, you just have to love it. Okay, now we've got a break coming up at the bottom of the hour. I promise when we get back, we're going to start on the phones because we've had a full boat, a full roster of people waiting, and I know you want to weigh in on this. Your turn's coming up. It's bogus. Why would the FBI need additional money? Anyway, Really, really big investigation. Yeah, that's been going on for how long now? This is one of the biggest hoaxes. The Russian collusion with Trump to steal is one of the biggest hoaxes and scams that I can remember. I mean, just this side of climate change, global warming, but this is really localized. This is a very narrow scope hoax. And it's amazing. There's nothing. There's literally nothing there. And even before the election, when Hillary thought she was going to win, there wasn't any talk about the Russians tampering with anything other than Podesta's emails, but nothing about the election. Nothing. They thought they were going to win. And after they won, they didn't want the election tainted by claiming the Russians had helped out. They started this hoax about 24 hours after Hillary lost, once they came to grips with it, which they probably still haven't when you get down to it. Okay, Bonnie in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, great to have you. You're up first today, and welcome to the program.
Thank you. This is the first time I've ever made it through to you, and I thank you very much, Rush.
You're welcome.
I do want to ask your opinion of this, that I think all these Democrats that are want to have a special prosecutor and everything to look into this, Comey, and the Russians and all that. Quite frankly, I think they're opening the door to their own doom, okay? Because to me, a special prosecutor is a person who's looking for criminal behavior.
Not necessarily.
Well, okay, but they have the ability usually to investigate crime or what appears to be crime, what they think might be a crime.
You're talking about an uncorrupted justice system, yes.
Yeah, well, that would be nice.
Let me tell you why I'm being a little snarky.
Springs eternal. I think as soon as someone has to look into the unmasking, first of Michael Flynn and then everybody else that they were surveilling on Trump's team.
We don't need a special counsel for that. The new FBI director, if he wants to reopen the Hillary investigation, if he can do the unmasking, this special counsel business, let me tell you why I've been snarky here, Bonnie. It's not at you. You remember the name Scooter Libby?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do. Well, I'm old enough to remember that.
Okay, well, let me explain to people who don't know what happened. The Democrats and the media wanted to make the case that a CIA agent had her identity leaked at great risk to her and her wonderful husband named Joe Wilson. These are two full-fledged, all-in lib socialists.
Right.
That were anti-George W. Bush and anti-the Iraq War. And her name got leaked in a newspaper column written by Robert Novak. Novak knew who leaked it, but he protects sources, wouldn't say so. It was eventually learned that somebody working for Colin Powell at the State Department leaked her name to Novak. His name was Richard Armitage. Well, a special prosecutor was found, Patrick Fitzgerald, who is a friend of Comey's. Comey ran this special prosecutor in charge of it, chose Fitzgerald, and Fitzgerald did interviews with Karl Rove and any number of people trying to nail somebody in the Bush administration with leaking Valerie Plame's name. And they finally got Scooter Libby on it on a process crime. Richard Armitage, the guy who actually leaked her name, walked away scot-free. Scooter Libby was sent to jail. Sentenced to jail over this, and he's not done anything. So you say a special prosecutor, but I guarantee if the Democrats want a special prosecutor, they don't want a special prosecutor. They want somebody who's going to come in and run a political operation for them.
Well, I don't think they would get to pick the special counsel or special prosecutor, would they? I was not under the impression that they would be up to them to pick who they thought would be assigned to that.
That's right. It was George W. Bush who ended up settling for Pat Fitzgerald. Look, yeah, Pat Fitzgerald had a sterling reputation. He was, just the epitome of fairness, the epitome of justice. He was a walking justice scale, equally balanced and everything.
We guess we're just going to have to trust Trump, the Trump administration, then to pick a good FBI director.
Why do we need a special just because they're asking for one? Screw them. Why do they get one just because they're asking for it?
I just thought it might be actually get somebody in there that was serious about finding out how these people were unmasked.
Do you know how long these things go on? An independent counsel, it'll take him 9 months to pick his assistant. It'll take him another 9 months to find office space. Another 9 months to do initial interviews. This thing will drag on through the 2020 presidential election.
Well, give me some hope here. Give me some hope. Tell me that Trump is going to pick somebody really good, which I'm hoping, and he does a good job picking people, to be the new FBI director.
I think the people asking for a special prosecutor ought to be told to go take a hike. We've already got investigations out the wazoo, and they're supposedly fair. We got to... What? I thought she was asking for a special prosecutor. Oh, you asking me for a name on the new FBI director?
I said we'll have to trust that Trump is going to.
Oh, that! I thought you were still asking me about special prosecutor.
No, that was how I started. But you've convinced me that will not work. But a great new FBI director could reopen.
I just want about the special prosecutor. Can you obviously have experience? You have a memory. You pay attention. Can you remember an independent prosecutor, a special counsel, that ever ended up finding justice the way you would define it?
Yeah, now that you mention
Look at what they did to Ken Starr.
Yeah, Ken Starr, yeah.
Look at what they did to Ken Starr. They turned him into a Martian sex pervert before it was all over with.
Well, unfortunately, the Democrats do have nasty mouths on them, and yes, they're relentless.
They did. He was running around. James Carville out there sees Ken Starr selling cigarettes to your babies while coming from Mars. He's an alien. He's a sex pervert trying to put the most moral president in the history of the world in jail. By the way, the Democrats, after the last independent counsel, there's never going to be another one. We're not going to authorize the statute. The hell with these special counsels. Comey picked Fitzgerald. James Comey picked Pat Fitzgerald, who did the special prosecutor, found Scooter Libby. And both of them were said to have reputations way beyond excellent, the highest repute. The Democrats got Devin Nunes scalped. They got him out of it. It's a bad. I think Trump should tell him to pound sand. Now on the FBI director, let me read you a story since you bring that up. Hang on out there, Bonnie. I'll get to this real quick. This is a story from New York Magazine. How did they make news, Jeff? What do we have? New York Magazine. They had some. What? Oh, yeah. New York Magazine had a story yesterday that we would have been better off not having fought the revolution, not having a declaration, not having constitution. We'd have been better off in a more justified country if we ended up like Canada. Okay, so the same magazine has a story here by Olivia Nuzzi. Giuliani heads to the White House, says it has nothing to do with Comey's firing. Now listen to this opening paragraph. It was about midnight, well after last call, when Rudy Giuliani and a small entourage reeking of cigar smoke emerged from behind the nearly empty bar in the Trump International Hotel in Washington, just a short walk from the White House. Several hours had passed since Trump had fired Comey. Speculation was rampant that perhaps Rudy, an old Trump ally, could replace Comey. His presence in Washington, reeking of cigar smoke, so close physically to Trump, only stoked the flames. Giuliani told me, I think the president made the right decision. Jim's somebody I regard as a friend. He worked for me for 3 years. I was U.S. attorney, but he made a number of bad judgments over the last year. The president was correct in removing him and trying to get the FBI better leadership, and then denied that he was in the running for FBI director. But New York Magazine thinks he is. Rudy Giuliani at the FBI. I frankly would eat that up. I think that would be that would be something worth salivating over. Giuliani and a small entourage reeking of cigar smoke emerged from behind the nearly empty bar at the Trump Hotel in Washington. All right, Brecksville, Ohio. Next, Patrick, thank you for waiting, and welcome to the program.
Maharashi, 1991 Megaditto.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. I hate to disagree with you. I disagree a little bit. I think we're kind of maybe on the same page a bit, but I disagree with your assessment that Dems are kind of just nuts and a little unhinged. I really think we got to go pedal to the metal here. Maybe I'm a little more rabid than your last caller, but I really think that we're seeing the face of fascism here. I mean, it really is reaching a critical mass. And I know I'm gonna quote you a little bit from the past where we said, we used to laugh this stuff off, and it was a big joke. It's becoming less and less of a joke. When I talk to average hardcore liberals, I think that they'd be just fine with, some gas chambers for conservatives and Republicans, and look at how we're hated. And I think, the vast majority of people in this country voted for Trump, so I have a lot of hope there. But I think that when you have the media and, really carrying the water and so much propaganda, I think that we're really experiencing what it's like to the beginning stages of a fascist communist regime takeover. They try to do it.
I totally agree with you, but it doesn't make me change my attitude that they're insane.
Well,
I think their minds are rotting with hate and poison, but I don't doubt that they're serious.
And that was a good point, because when you did say that, you clarified the comments a little bit later, and I thought to myself, because I think that's the trap we have to be careful of. I don't want to fall into that same trap either. I don't want to become like them, and I work hard not to. I try to stick to the facts, but at the same time, I think we can't always be erring on the side of, we got to be the nice guys, and we got to put the pedal to the metal. I think you did say that. That's where I kind of came around.
Preaching to the choir here on that, and you're right, by the way. I have said many times, but programs started all the way through the 90s. They do this crazy lunatic stuff. We laugh at it, thinking nobody's going to believe this, and here we are. Nearly half the country does believe this stuff, and they are fascist, and they can be purchased. They can be bought to protest and destroy and riot and explode, burn things down. They can be. I totally agree with you that we are dealing with a fascist, anti-American uprising that the Democrat Party has endorsed now and signed on to and has become the electoral vehicle for. No disagreement with me on that at all.
Good. Can I make one last comment?
But I'm still telling you that this is not normal. This is irrational, and it is unhinged. I'm not saying they don't mean it. I think they're literally eating themselves alive. This kind of hatred that they're running, it's real. I'm not saying it's manufactured. It's real. Can you imagine living with this kind of hatred every day, 24/7? What would it do to you?
Yeah, you can't sustain it. It's not sustainable, and that's why I don't think we can.
Yet they are.
At the same time, we have to defend it.
They are sustaining it. What I think is happening, I should say, what I hope is happening is that more and more Americans are being entirely turned off or repulsed by it. This is, it's not healthy. And particularly if these people happen to triumph and win, it is not healthy.
Luckily, they're losing, though. That is the one hope that I get out of the Trump election. Can I make one last comment?
Yes.
I haven't talked to you in a long, long time. Boy, I'm going to lose my composure. And we're not looking for you to go anywhere for a long time. But when that day comes, you're going to need to have laid plans for a Ronald Reagan type commemorative. I was at his funeral. I stood in line for 8 hours, and it'll be the saddest day of my life when you go.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I've listened to you since I was about 19, and you're an inspiration. So you're one of the few people that I would have that sentiment for. So I apologize. I'm losing my composure there. Thank you for everything, Rush.
Patrick, thank you for calling. I appreciate it. They told me on the other side of the glass he was crying. I could tell. Man, that's... Whoa. Well, the only thing I can tell you is that I'm not envisioning that day. That's deep. That I need a Reagan-like, and that he's going to cry. That's damn. Well, let me take a brief time out. I don't know quite how to react to that. And we are right here back at it, your guiding light. Times of trouble, confusion, murkiness, tumult, chaos, hoaxes, conspiracies, and yes, even the good times. Rush Limbaugh at 800-282-2882. Sarah Huckabee is doing the White House press briefing today, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and she is doing a phenomenal job. She is no nonsense. She is confident. She's unflappable. These people are not in any way, shape, manner, or form rattling her at all. And I want to give you an example of something that they're asking her the same question over and over. Why did Trump say a week ago they have full support for Comey and fired him yesterday? Huh? Did Sean lie to us last week about that? Because Spicer said that. And she just looks at these reporters and smiles. Yeah, you have to get that little dig in. No, of course not. And then she answered as she has been answering. She went back and talked about how Comey has broke with the chain of command, started assuming control over the Department of Justice when it wasn't his, and she made mention of the fact of his vastly, greatly erroneous claim last week under oath that all kinds of classified documents and emails were being uploaded to Anthony Weiner's computer by Huma Abedin when it wasn't the case. And these reporters just will not let it go. And CNN, and one thing else that she said in response to these questions, look, you guys are going to keep asking this question. Let me tell you, we encourage the investigation to continue. Just because Comey isn't here doesn't mean the investigation stopped. The investigation was going on Monday. It was going on yesterday. It's going on today. We encourage the investigation to continue. We want to put it behind us. We want to complete it so we can get on with doing the work of turning our country around. So CNN reports that with a graphic across the bottom of the screen. And she did say that we encourage the investigation. We're not trying to stop the investigation. We would love to see it come to a completion. CNN referenced that in a snarky way in their graphic of it, trying to make it look like they've got something to hide. They want it, and we want it to be over because we're being so damaged by it. We want it to be over. And she was very clear. She said, there's no collusion. You're not going to find any because none of it happened. Get your investigation done and over with so we can move on. They characterized it as Sarah Huckabee Sanders trying to say that they're rattled by it and they hope you guys will finish this so that we can be exonerated quickly. It's subtle and it's snarky and it ticks me off like I can't tell you. She's just trying to answer the questions as best she can. She's not engaging in any spin. She's not being impolite or rude or in any way, shape, manner, or form. And she's not flappable. She's not been caught up. She hasn't paused. She hasn't misspoken. She hasn't had to go back and correct something. And I'm sure it's irritating them. But I'm telling you, I've been trying to remember during the break if I can recall a political hoax like this. It's because nothing's new in the world. Nothing's new since Genesis. And so everybody in their life thinks history began when they were born. Most people's historical perspective happened when they were born in the sense that nothing has ever been this bad. Nothing. Oh, we've never gone through this before. And, of course, we have. Things have been worse in many ways in the country. That notwithstanding, I've been trying to recall if any remembrance of a similar kind of political assertion. Maybe the Valerie Plame leak. That was frustrating because we knew who the leaker was, and the special counsel didn't care and was hell-bent on nailing somebody in the administration. But that was not quite like this. There have been similar things. I mean, the Democrats wouldn't let go of the war in Iraq and did everything they could to propagandize that. But this is a nothing burger. There literally is nothing there. There is no evidence. There's not a single person in the world who's ever said there might be, much less is. Maxine Waters is the latest. And she has become the biggest star in the Democrat Party with millennials. You look, Mr. Snerdley, do you know that she was the big draw at the MTV Music Awards? Maxine Waters got the biggest standing O of anybody at the MTV Music Awards. I think they were Sunday night. They call her Auntie Maxine. You know what they like about her? She's been talking about impeaching Trump. She's insane herself. She's a literal lunatic. And they're eating it up. They think she's God sent. She's an oracle. She holds the magic truths. She's one of the few Democrats willing to say what she says, and then these young millennials are just glomming onto her like you can't believe it. It's one of the most amazing social science experiments to look at this happen. There's anybody who knows Maxine Waters historically. Even the Democrats laugh at her. You know, she makes all kinds of. She'll be conducting a hearing of some group of CEOs, and she'll openly, we want to take over your businesses. You don't run them right. We want it. That's what we want. And, the Democrats have to slap her down and say, Maxine, come back a little bit. We don't want to admit that. But I can't think of a hoax like this. Maybe you can. I mean, a nothing burger. But even Maxine Waters said no. Dianne Feinstein, no evidence. Remember when Wolf Blitzer was crestfallen when she announced him last week? No evidence of collusion. And they all follow it up with, this is why we must continue to investigate. And it's a classic quiver from the arrows. The Democrats have classic arrow from the quiver they have that there's no evidence. It means there's something there. No evidence means, by God, it's there. We just haven't. No evidence. We really need to double down on our investigation. It's an offshoot of the nature of the evidence is not what's important. It's the seriousness of the charge that justifies this obscene pursuit. At any rate, I have assembled some things here that I found comical and interesting in terms of reaction to the firing of James Comey. TheHill.com, Trump dings crying Chuck Schumer for bashing Comey firing. President Trump tweeted Tuesday night attacking Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer for criticizing his decision to fire Comey. Crying Chuck Schumer stated recently, I do not have confidence in Comey any longer, and then acts so indignant. Trump's not attacking anybody. Trump's the guy being attacked. Trump is not mounting a coup. He is the target of a coup. So Schumer goes out and attacks Trump, and Trump responds by calling him crying Chuck Schumer. And the drive-bys are now blasting Trump for calling Schumer crying Chuck. None of them seem to realize that it's a reference to Schumer's crocodile tears over Trump's visa ban. Remember when crying Chuck started crying over the first travel ban? Trump has these people's number. He calls them out on things that nobody else does. He calls them out the way Republicans refuse to. And the Democrats, unused to being called out this way, react in genuine outrage. Here's a story from Joel Pollack at Breitbart. Simple explanation for Trump firing James Comey when he did. This is a theory. Just want to share it with you. Why fire Comey now? The answer is simple. The day before he's fired, President Barack Obama's former Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, repeated under oath what he told Meet the Press way back on March the 5th, that he had seen no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. That gave the Trump administration the breathing room to dismiss Comey, which it simply did not have before. So his theory is, with yet another official denial, okay, nothing there. This investigation is going nowhere. There's nothing to find. Let's finally get rid of Comey. We've been wanting to do it for a long time. Put simply, if Trump had fired Comey while there were still serious questions about Russia, then it would have been more plausible to accuse Trump of trying to interfere in the investigation or cover up what happened. It's now clear that nothing, in fact, happened. Monday's hearing with Clapper and Sally Yates was meant to reveal a smoking gun, and there wasn't. That's another thing. Remember how they've been salivating for weeks over Sally Yates' appearance? They really were thinking she was going to have a smoking gun. They could have found out before she testified if she had anything. But they didn't. They were waiting. They were hoping and praying that Sally Yates had some secret bit of news that was going to destroy Trump, and she didn't have anything new. And they were let down once again. Remember Catherine Heritage's explanation for why Comey was fired. Again, she revealed this on Fox News last night during that 9 o'clock show called The Five. Herridge said that Comey was fired because Trump had asked him to investigate unmasking of Trump administration officials. And Comey had refused to conduct that investigation, but had never to learn nevertheless learned who some of the people doing the unmasking were, and Comey had stalled turning that information over to the Trump administration. So it's, in a sense, it's a degree of insubordination that led to Comey's dismissal. Wall Street Journal. Now, you need to understand something. The Wall Street Journal led the Never-Trumpers. The Wall Street Journal editorial page, long thought by many to be conservative, and I guess it is, has been part of the Never-Trump brigade from the outset. And even the Wall Street Journal, Comey's deserved dismissal. Let me share with you some of their reasons. We advised Mr. Trump to sack Mr. Comey immediately upon taking office. The president will now pay a larger political price for waiting as critics question the timing of his action amid the FBI's probe of his campaign's alleged Russia ties. You know what? I disagree with that. If Comey had been fired the day Trump was inaugurated, what do you think would have happened? The same thing that's happening now. And they all want to talk about Trump as a guilty of bad timing. There was no time to do this if you're worried about limiting media reaction. The media was going to make hay out of nothing here, no matter when Trump did it. If Trump had fired Comey yesterday, 2 days ago, 3 months ago, what we're seeing now is what we would have seen then. Here would have come the invisible news, the fake news leaks. Trump knew that Comey was getting close. Trump was aware that there was something to be found. Trump desperately trying to stop the investigation as his administration began. You can write these sentences yourself. There is a very worrisome corruption of so much of official Washington. There doesn't seem to be, at least for me, and I don't like this, there doesn't seem to be, let me put it this way. When the FBI said something, you believed it. Now we question it. When the FBI said that somebody had done something or had not done something, they had a great reputation and a great image. They had not been politicized, at least not outwardly. They seemed to be totally focused on genuine bad guys. I don't know if there is an institution left that people do not doubt. The left has just corrupted everything that it has attempted to gain control of. It's not healthy, and of course it's not good when there are doubts about honesty from every sector of government, when the first instinctive reaction is to calculate the political belief of whoever it is saying something and then measure what they've said based on that, because everything has become politicized. Law enforcement specifically is not to be. But we know that it has been, as evidenced by the past year. Here's another quote from the Wall Street Journal editorial supporting the firing of Comey. Comey styles himself as the last honest man in Washington, as he has dangled insinuations across his career about the George W. Bush White House and surveillance, and then Mrs. Clinton and emails, and now Mr. Trump and Russia. Comey is political in precisely the way we do not want a leader of America's premier law enforcement agency to behave. Bingo. And then there's this. As for the Russia probe, if Mr. Trump is trying to cover up anything, firing the FBI director is a lousy way to do it. Such a public spectacle will make details more likely to leak if agents feel their evidence is being sat on. Mr. Comey's credibility was also tainted enough that whatever he announced at the end of the probe would have been doubted. Well, bingo to that, too. Can you imagine what would have happened if Comey would have ever announced, we're closing the investigation, there is no evidence of collusion between Trump and Russia? Can you imagine, from Chuck Schumer on down, or up, depending on your... Can you imagine the reaction to Meet the Press or anywhere else in the drive-by media, CNN, New York? Can you imagine it? Well, I guarantee you Comey could. I frankly had doubts that there was ever going to be an end to this investigation. For that very reason. Too many of these people are seeking a perfect image, being loved and adored by everybody. And in this highly charged atmosphere, that simply isn't possible anymore. And we go back to the phones of Susan in Klein, Texas. I'm glad you called. It's great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
Hello, Rush. It's an honor to be with you. And
Thank
thank you first for my excellent education from the Limbaugh Institute for the last 25 years. My first reaction about Trump adding and oh, by the way, 3 times he's told me I'm not under investigation. At first I thought it was just Trump being Trump. But as you've taught us critical thinking, I thought, no, there's more to this. And I'm just wondering if he didn't do that because it politicizes it that he would tell Trump he's not under investigation. I would think that would not be legal either.
You mean to tell Trump that?
Yes, sir.
You know, I mentioned, this is a good observation on your part. I appreciate it, Susan, because I mentioned at the beginning of the program that there were 2 or 3 things about this that I thought said volumes that nobody was focused on. And that usually happens here. The conventional wisdom forms, and I'm outside it. And I'm just going to repeat. Folks, if you didn't hear what happened here, Stephen Colbert last night, he's got this giant reunion with all these Comedy Central clowns. And so they've been promoting this. So theoretically, a huge audience last night for this show. And, well, huge for them. And it's all liberals, and it's all hipsters, and it's all this. And so Colbert goes out in his opening monologue and announces a big news. It just happened 10 minutes ago. You may not know about it, but Donald Trump just fired James Comey. And the crowd erupted in a standing ovation. They were thrilled. They were happy. And Colbert was shocked. He didn't know what to do. Last thing he thought was the crowd would stand up and applaud Trump firing Comey. So Colbert said, must be a whole lot of Trump fans in here. There weren't any Trump fans in there last night. These were classic liberal Democrats who had been told over the past months to hate Trump and to love Comey. Or hate Comey, rather. They've been told that Comey's evil. Comey's the guy that kept Hillary from winning the election. Comey stole it. Comey did this. So when Comey got fired, they're thrilled. They're excited. And that, to me, spoke volumes about how the rank-and-file Democrat voters, they're just programmed robots. Let me expand on this when we get back. Now, the point is that you have these liberals. They have been programmed. They've been instructed, wherever they are, media, college, would hate Comey, despise Comey. Trump fires Comey, they cheer. Colbert shocked. No. We hate Trump. We hate Trump or whatever Trump does. Don't you get it? He thought, my God, there's some Trump people in here. The reason this stood out to me is because the left, whether their protesters are bought and paid for or whether it's their rank and file, they do not arrive at what they believe by way of critical, independent thinking. These are mind-numb, programmed robots who are being programmed by virtue of hate. They are being emotionally manipulated while they are being lied to. And that posits to me a grave danger. We do not have... These people think they're the most tolerant, the smartest, the most informed people around, and they are the exact opposite. And as such, they pose a threat. If you believe that a representative republic or democracy depends on an informed, engaged citizenry. And the left cannot tolerate that. They cannot tolerate independent thinking. Independent thinkers reject them. They need mind-numb robots like that. And the fact that this display happened last night, to me, was evidence of what we're dealing with. And you can't appeal to them with reason. It's a wasted exercise. Try to appeal to these people with reason because they haven't arrived at what they believe by reasoning. They're there because they've been emotionally manipulated with hate. The other thing I pointed out, when Trump mentions in this letter that Comey has told him 3 times he's not being investigated, my first reaction, why hasn't Comey publicly said that? I mean, that is huge. I don't think Trump would lie about it. That's all kinds of problems if he's lying about this. Now, Susan's point is that Comey's way out of bounds saying that you never... Although, I'll tell you something, Susan, on occasion, investigators, they will tell you if you're a person of interest. They'll tell you if you're a target. But very rarely in the middle of investigation do they tell you you're free and clear. However, they have Supreme Court permission to lie to you. Police officers can lie to suspects. So keep that in mind as you process that. What else did you have?
I have a 10-year-old granddaughter, and I have all your books.
Oh.
So I begged to read your books, and she said, well, did they have princesses in there? And I said, no, but they're really good. And she just wouldn't do it. Anyway, one day she had nothing to read, and I gave her your first book to read. Long story short, she's read all of them in probably less than 2 weeks, one in a 24-hour period.
Wow.
But she asked her teacher, because she's in the 4th grade, and here they do probably language arts, and they will have a book and that you're reading that it's historical. And she said, can we read this first book? And she said, well, bring me the book, and I'll see. So right now the book is in the teacher's hands, but my granddaughter told her everything we're studying is in this first book of Rush Revere. And the only thing I had told her, everything in this, Jenna, is true. And she said, and she wanted to Google the Stomp Act, which I said, okay, that part's not true. Where, they do a rap to the Stamp Act, except that they call it the Stomp Act. But anyway, I just wanted to thank you, Rush, for everything, including those books. And she has now devoured all of them. I asked her, are any other children in your class, have they read the book? And she said, yeah, several, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. So thank you, Rush.
Well, you're more. Look, I want you to hang on out there, Susan, so I get your address. We want to send your granddaughter. She's 10. We've got a whole packet of stuff that we send young people, like the books. A little Liberty stuffed animal doll in there that she absolutely love, and some other stuff too. So please hang on so that we can get your address and get that stuff out to you quickly. Dave in Towson, Maryland, you're next. It's great to have you here. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, Rush. First of all, I want to let you know that I travel around the country for work, and everywhere I go, I get a rental car. The first thing I do is I put your station on, and I change all the presets to your local affiliate. So that way, if a liberal gets the car after me, they'll be able to turn you off.
Every preset?
Every preset.
I love that. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah. So I wanted to make the point that the Democrats and the left tried to use the Russian collusion thing to drive a wedge between Trump and his base. But I think the only people it got traction with was the left. And I think it really confuses the left because they've been told for the last 8 years that the Russians were good to deal with. You know? Tell Vlad we...
You know, now, wait a minute. This is an interesting point. You know, I must confess I hadn't thought about it as far down the line as you have. I just said collusion, Russians, supposed to equal bad to Americans, ergo Trump's going to go. But really, he's got a point here. For whom is this narrative aimed? To whom is it aimed? That Trump and the Russians colluded, stealing the election from Hillary and putting Trump in the White House. Who are they aiming that at? Now, his theory is they're aiming it at you Trump voters. The media is trying to separate you, drive a wedge between you and Trump because you wouldn't want any part of Trump if the Russians had cheated against Hillary. And by the same token, they're not aiming it at Democrats because Democrats hate Trump already. And anyway, they don't need any added reason to hate Trump. So what is the purpose of it? They're not going to drive a wedge between Trump's voters on this. The Trump voter is never going to believe. The Trump voter knows that this is BS. Trump voters are far more sophisticated, far more knowledgeable, and they think, obviously, much more than your average Democrat voter does. And they don't fall prey to this kind of crap. So I think one of the objectives here is to just make the Trump presidency illegitimate morning, noon, day, and night. I think it's an ongoing, just like they did with Bush and the weapons of mass destruction, the Iraq War, the Florida recount, the entire narrative, every narrative of every news story every day was to disqualify and delegitimize Bush so that he would have no ability to advance his agenda. And I think that's what this is really all about. They're never going to drive a wedge between Trump. Only Trump can do that. I keep trying to tell these people, you're never, the media, the Democrats, you're never going to talk Trump voters out of supporting him. Only guy that can do that is Trump. But the other point that he made, that for all these years, the Democrats have been told the Russians are great. The Russians, it's not just the last 8 years, the last 50 years, the Democrat Party has been buddy-buddy with the Russians or the Soviets, communists, or whoever. And so now all of a sudden, Putin's a bad guy. And how can they sell that? Putin, he's a good friend of Trump. That's how they get it. Because remember, their voters don't think. Their voters react. Their voters are emotion. Their voters are just, they're pre-programmed mind-numb robots. Anyway, I appreciate the call. We've got some Sarah Huckabee Sanders sound bites here from the press briefing. I just want you to hear them. We'll be back in just a second. You know, I didn't know this because I didn't keep watching the show. Apparently, Jon Stewart started making fun of Colbert's audience as a bunch of dumb surfers, not knowing what the hell was up. I'm telling you, that's a big deal last night. It's not going to matter in elections, that kind of thing. It's just in terms of identifying who we're up against and what they really think versus what we're dealing with idiots, folks, who are arrogant and condescending and think they're the only people that know anything. It's useful information. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, 2 sound bites. Just want you to hear how well she did. Here's the first.
He wants them to continue with whatever they see appropriate and see fit, just the same as he's encouraged the House and Senate committees to continue any ongoing investigations. Look, the bottom line is any investigation that was happening on Monday is still happening today. That hasn't changed. And in fact, we encourage them to complete this investigation so we can put it behind us and we can continue to see exactly what we've been saying for nearly a year. There's no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, and we'd love for that to be completed so that we can all move on and focus on the things that, frankly, I think most of Americans are concerned with.
And CNN got all snarky here, and on their graphic, they tried to make a point that Sarah Huckabee Sanders, we want to put this behind us because we're guilty and we want to get away with it and we want to put it. And she was simply saying, would you guys wrap this up? You've been looking at this for a year. There's nothing here. We can't wait till you wrap this up so we can move on. They don't want to wrap it up, Sarah. They don't want an end to this. That's the whole point. It's a political story. It's not an investigation. They don't want it to have an end. Blake Berman, White House correspondent, what happened yesterday that you could argue just widened the divide, made D.C. politics more toxic, this firing? So how you go about accomplishing all those things on the president's agenda with this kind of environment?
Frankly, I'm surprised that it did create a divide since you've had so many Republicans and Democrats repeatedly calling for Director Comey to be gone. Frankly, I don't think it matters what this president says. You're going to have Democrats come out and fight him every single step of the way. I think that's one of the things that's wrong with Washington, and I think that's one of the reasons that we've got to get back to focusing on those issues and, frankly, draining the swamp a little bit further. Most of the people that are declaring war today were the very ones that were begging for Director Comey to be fired. If Hillary Clinton had won the election, which thank God she didn't, but if she had...
There you go, White House press briefing. Sarah Huckabee Sanders back in just a second. Maybe we'll get lucky and Trump will shut down PBS and NPR tonight. Imagine if that happened. We will take a brief time, about 21 hours. Back tomorrow. Thank you, folks, for being here today.